we had. But to bring things together, obviously we ended up in Atlanta. And the weird way I ended up in Atlanta's like really interesting how all this comes together. The way I ended up in Atlanta was because when I went to Florida after leaving school, I went down there, and shortly after I got down there, they wanted us to move to Connecticut. Well, that was a running joke. A lot of people didn't go to Connecticut. Thousands of people didn't go to Connecticut, and because they were in West Palm Beach, Florida, and they wanted us to move to Hartford, Connecticut. That's a tough sell. Thousands of people ended up not going. But there was a running joke that people's wives were going to leave them if they ended up going to Connecticut. Well, I wasn't married then. We were still dating then. But it ended up being somewhat a real thing for me, because Kim was down in Florida living with her brother about 50 minutes away from where I was. And she had moved down there because I was down there. She wasn't going down there just on her own. She moved down there because I was down there. So basically, in so many words, she told me, you can have Connecticut. I'm not going down there. I'm going up there, especially if I don't have a ring. So long story short there, I ended up not going. I didn't go because I didn't want to go. All right? Not because she didn't want me to go. I didn't go because I didn't want to go. Let's make sure we get that story straight. She can't defend herself. But I ended up in Atlanta, and that's how we ended up getting to Atlanta there. And over time, we obviously stayed there. And Reggie was in Atlanta, but we lost touch even though he lived pretty close. So around 2010 time frame, we actually started getting back, communicating, and started hanging out. And one of the most memorable nights that we had, and my Clemson people will appreciate this and also mourn this. We used to go to JR Crickets on South Cobb, for those who may know where that is. But we watched, one of the last things we did was we watched the West Virginia game, the bowl game against West Virginia. Wait a minute. I think Geno Smith just scored again on us. The game that eventually turned the Clemson program around, because we got embarrassed so much that we did some things differently, and 2 championships later, we're still on a good swing. But me and Reggie got back connected, and that was in January. We were doing things on and off all that year, and started going back to games in the fall. Well, we were going to a game, and we were going to watch the Georgia Tech game somewhere. And I said, Reg, I can't go. I need to go to Orlando next week. It was going to be fall break for the kids. I need to go to Orlando. Instead of going to meet up with you and watch the game, I need to pack. So we ended up not going to the game. The game's obviously on Saturday, college football. Went to Orlando. By that Tuesday, I got a call. Reggie lost his life. He passed away. He passed away. And obviously it shook me up. But we bounced back, and we went to the funeral, went to his house, met his mom. Well, I knew his mom, because we had actually, going back to that, we actually ran into his mom, and she met Kim. She remembered me. I made sure she remembered me. Once I gave her the details, she was like, oh yeah, I remember you. Because I'd seen her a couple other times, after that, and she met Kim, and we would run into her from time to time. And I went to the house with the boys, talked to her, and this had to be 2011. Yeah, this had to be 2011. Around the time of the funeral, we were there, and that was the last time I saw her. And things happened. A few years later, I get laid off this time. None of these layoffs have been my fault. But you know, anyway, I know y'all laughing, but none of them were my fault. But anyway, this time I leave Atlanta to go back to Palm Beach, which most of you know, and we stayed there 3 years. And Palm Beach was where Kim got diagnosed with cancer, so that's where that part of the journey stands for. But I knew at some point, I never sold a house. I knew at some point I'd get back to Atlanta. Didn't know how it was gonna work, but at some point I'd get back to Atlanta. There's something about Atlanta and us that just connects. So fast forward, we end up back in Atlanta, partially due to the cancer, partially due to just is where we needed to be, closer to family, everything else. And we get there, obviously we're back, and you know how things happen. So we're at the funeral, and this is where things really get weird. We're at the funeral, and at the end of the funeral, a lady comes up to me in an all-white dress, the usher dress. Reggie's mother was an usher at the funeral. You can't make this up. And mind you, in this COVID time, the church we go to is a big church. They'll put things out to see if when there's a funeral or something, apparently the process is they'll put stuff out and they'll have people step up and volunteer when they can actually do the event. And if anybody followed what was going on, it was almost impossible for me to plan the funeral and get everything done. So by happenstance, she was available to work the funeral. So she was an usher at the funeral. I don't think that was a coincidence. She came up to me at the end, and we had a long hug and embraced. And she was like, when I saw this, she's like, that can't be who I think it is. That can't be the Hayward girl that I think it is. And she was like, I gotta be there. I gotta be there. Greg Kane was there. He was able to see her. Carl couldn't make it, but I told him about it. And that's how it is. Some things you can't make up. But Atlanta was home. It's been home for a while, and it's a huge part of my story. But it's something I wanted to share. I thought that would maybe bring a smile to somebody. Things happen for a reason. In a way, I'm not somebody who always believed that, but a lot of things happen that week. Just that week of the planning the funeral, a lot of things happened that were not coincidence. But yep, so that's the second episode. Welcome to Atlanta. Got my A hat on, got my Braves sweatshirt. Going to watch this game, going to coach this game. Chris plays for the Braves. It is what it is. Y'all be safe. Love you.